Hey, I'm live, I think. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I don't think this is going to work, Rodney. It's all right now. All right. Well, somebody can rewatch it. That's the case. Hey, Thomas, can you hear me okay? Hey, Grandpa, Mr. JD is in the house. Okay, just making sure. I'm doing a just out of the blue live mail call. So whoever I get in here, I get, and whoever else watches it might be a rerun. But today in the mail, I got my first of 4 packages. I thought 2 of them was supposed to be here today, but evidently the weather kind of messed the one up from getting here. But these things need just a little bit of work, but I got me some safety cabooses. I don't know if you all can see that or not, but there's number 3000. That's one. Uh, Now these are somewhat phototypical. I just checked with the Chessie System Historic Society or the B&O, but whatever you want to call it, it's all Chessie System. But these are the B&O markings. Some of them don't look exact, but between me and Joe Rader, we're thinking that some of them was rebuilt And I mean, they only did this as a special run, so these things are hard to find. So but I just happened to find a guy that had these on 10 different posts, single posts, and they was all from the same guy. And I asked him kindly if he could do a buy it now by combining all 10 into one post as a buy it now. And he gave me a good deal on all 10 of them. Now, all 10 of these are not actually what is phototypical. I'm still missing the other three, which I think is the other three packages that I'm supposed to be getting. So you need the gold one. The brass one. But this one's number, and let me, wonder if my other camera, let me switch cameras back here, guys. Let me see if this one's any better. Is that better? Maybe. There's the 3010. Like I say, some of them's phototypical, some of them might not be, not exact, but they're close. Let me, how did I get this? We've got the red one, 3017. Now, the way I'm figuring this, the other three packages ought to make the complete set of 12 of the special run that they did for those 12. The other three is the other three numbers on there. These 10, one of them is wrong. I think somebody was trying to do the rebuild of the one, and I think they kind of got the collar messed up on it. So it's totally the wrong collar because it was a green and white that got rebuilt into a light blue and white, I believe. Which one of these is like a light blue, but it's the wrong number. But here's the number 3025, red one. And you don't realize how excited I was to get these today because we had a snowstorm today, which really probably didn't make the mail people any happier than anybody else. But here's the blue one, the 3028. Now here's the one that it's showing it got rebuilt. The original one was green and white, and Joe Rader probably already knows this because he's the one that helped me out. But this is the right number, but I'm thinking it is the rebuild version because it don't have the 90 in front of the rebuilt interior picture. So, but this would be the correct color of the rebuilt one from the green one. So why they switched the colors on it when they rebuilt it, I don't know that. It could be because there is a green one that I have that is one of the right numbers. So it could be that they might have switched it because of the greens or something. I don't know. But here is one. This one here is the same slogan message as this one, as you can see. This is the right number, the 3035. And this one would be the right rebuild color, but it's saying it's number 3085. So somebody either tried to, they labeled or decaled this, but they decaled it as an 85 instead of a 35, trying to make it so the number was different. So, but they have the same slogans. But this blue does not look like the blue on the actual website. So this blue is a darker blue than the number 85. The purple one is number 3718, and there's that one. And there is one or two of these that I need to get a ladder replacement for. I think it has everything else, but it's the one's missing the ladder. Matter of fact, this one here that I just showed a minute ago is actually still got horn hooks. So that tells me somebody didn't upscale this one. And I also need smokestacks. So I got to find a bunch of smokestacks because every one of these, they're broke. Somebody clipped the little sides off of them to make it look like it looks more like a little whistled more than it does. You have to repaint the chassis and platforms. They are all. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'll get around to that sometime. That ain't that hard to do. The chassis. This one is C3774. And you probably ain't going to be able to see that, but some of these they have the Chessie Kitty emblem, but it only has Chessie system written down below that, and then some of these also have just the big Chessie system name going across. Some of them do not match to the actual pictures, but I think they're close enough in my book. But you know, yes, Joe, I seen those. I seen the ladders. I just got to find the smokestack. I do think one of these might. I don't know if one of them needs. I do know a couple of them's going to need couplers, and I can get those at my train shop, or I may have to order them off of eBay or somewhere as well. Because well, this one, the one that looks broke, I'm actually pretty good at taking and putting little springs back in those. I don't know how I do it, but I'll sit here for a good 10 minutes and pop new spring back in them couplers. You wouldn't think that you'd be able to do it, but now I haven't did it for a while, for a long time, but this one seems like it might be okay. It's just missing a spring. I believe this one might even be missing the spring out of it. Those little springs are 17. Because they'll go bouncing somewhere, and you, if you got good eyes, you might be able to find them, but they are not magnetized. So you better hope that it lands somewhere on something that it shows up on, or and have good eyes, or you don't find them. So four. Oh, we got 8 people according to, okay, 5 according to YouTube. So I thought I'd just come on here real quick and do a live mail call, because I tried to record this earlier and my phone cut off. Either find or build 317 the maroon. Rebuild it. Either find. Okay. What I might do, I'm thinking that there was another one of these on eBay. If I can find it, I may just do that, Joe. I may keep one as is and rebuild one of them. I don't know. I mean, because I think this one had both the same number on the, well, the 90s in front of it, but that's, I think the 90 replaced the C that's on these for Chessie. I think that's what the C meant. The, and then they marked it for B&O when everything started merging. That way they knew the caboose group, or the group of cabooses that went on, your C&O routes and your B&O routes and Western Maryland routes. I mean, if my grandfather, which would have been my mother's stepfather or father, the one, because she never knew her actual father, so um, he would probably be able to tell me, but he's long gone. So because he worked for the Western Maryland and the B&O, mainly for Western Maryland, but he was involved with, when it was C&O and B&O and all that good stuff when it. And then he also told me one time the X on CSX is actually whatever you want it to, it could be what for whatever you want it to stand for, but it could be Chessie System Express, it could be Chessie System whatever. The X really didn't really have a meaning back then. I don't know if it actually does now. Yes, I did, Joe. That's how I know 85 ain't anywhere around them. And also, I believe that leaves me with 9 actual cabooses here. And when I get the other 3, which I made sure was the right numbers to your list that you sent me from the website, they will make the 12. So they will make the the 10, 11, and 12 one. So yes, the 85 is the wrong number, but if you get on their website, it's the right caller. That's the reason I think somebody renumbered it as an 85 and it was supposed to be actually a 35, because this is the right caller that they rebuilt it into. The original was a green one. It was green. And it's the one that they rebuilt the interior or something in it. But they evidently but all these back here, the other 9 is phototypical numbers to the website. So once I get the other 3 packages with the other 3 cabooses, I should have the 12. So it could mean that he, I'm just going by what my grandfather said back in the 90s, or the early mid 90s when he was still alive, because he worked for the actual Western Maryland, and we're talking about the old steam engines and stuff. And then he worked for Tessie System, and part of it he had to work for like the B&O, and once in a while on the C&O if they needed, I guess they switched them around sort of, because it was basically all going in the Tessie System, but he worked for the actual Tessie System B&O Western Maryland part of it. But those railroads then merged into what is CSX. But the X could mean anything. That's what he told me back in the 90s when he was alive. So I mean, it could be Chessie System Express, it could be Chessie System Leasing Company. He said the X really could mean anything, but the CS was kept basically because of Chessie System. They just named it CSX because everything was combined. That's just the information I got from the 90s. It could be totally different by now, which is totally fine. That's just the information from the 90s from him. So, and somebody like that would know because he was an engineer, brakeman, flagman, fireman, and I don't know if he was. I think he never made it to conductor. I don't know if it was engineer or conductor. He never made it to. He was on the way to one of them, and I don't think he wanted to do it because he was getting older and towards the retirement stage and stuff like that, and he just didn't want to go to the higher position. But he basically lived on the caboose. I can tell you that. But when they started cutting the cabooses gradually and fading them out, that's when he started being, or going from being the brakeman, flagman, switchman, fireman, and all that into the actual train crew, more up in the front of the engine. because I think the cabooses was still slightly being faded out when he retired, and because they was still running cabooses when he was still working there, and that was that had to been in the early mid 90s. So yes, that I forgot about the Sovereign being involved in that also. The Sovereign was also being part of Norfolk Southern and Norfolk Western at the time. I'm in certain areas, but Southern, yes, they. You're right, Joe. You're right. I was just going by, what I heard from him, from my grandfather. So, but I have heard about the Chessie and the Sovereign and the X and all that being the smaller mergers. Nowadays, I mean, it's so hard to think back, how many railroads is one railroad now, because they bought up so much, and they've also split some of those railroads that was bought into one. They split them up, like Conrail was basically, you know, Penn Central and those, uh, Pennsylvania and stuff like that. And then they went to, you know, down south and up north, and Conrail was all over the place. So basically, they was probably being a merger or leasing company then to some, before they actually just went totally out and got split between CSX and Norfolk Southern. So, and I got a bunch of. Do not know who that is. Isn't it wonderful? And it's something, you start watching something on eBay and your watch list, and you start getting all these offers. It's like people just see you watching their item, and it's like, oh, well, we'll send this guy an offer and see if he'll accept. No, I was just after those cabooses. I just wanted to get them over with, because I can. I don't know if I'm actually going to really run them a lot, but I also got an idea of having a scene somewhere where there's like a safety caboose hotel. Um, Basically for maybe like the railroad workers or employees or something like that, if there's bad weather, or um, they might have to stay overnight and carpool or something in the morning. Yes. Mine will be displayed. They just might be on the layout. I don't know, until I figure out what I'm going to do um, down here in the basement. That's going to be a long time, coming. Because right now, the layout is still in the shed, but it's really non-operational at the moment because there really ain't no track. There was never no track actually laid on the main layout. It's just up where you see stuff running on my videos, so up on the shelves. And of course, all my dad's Lionel trains, which I want to continue to run, but in other ways I really don't want to run because they're old. But if I don't continue to run them over time, that stuff will tend to just start locking up if you don't keep it, keep something moving in it. So there may be a Lionel layout, and there may be a new HO layout. I don't know. It all depends what 2024 might keep bringing me. Will give you a little clue. I have been trying to clean up down here in the Bainsmith a little bit. And the only reason I would move in everything in here is because of bugs and mice and, well, heat, cold, bathroom facilities, which I have down here, a bathroom, a sink, stuff like that to wash up after painting or sanding or whatever. Because the shed is way down in the yard, and Joe probably knows this. We got a big snowstorm. I don't know how much is down his way, but it was supposed to hit him and Ray too. But I would have to shovel all that crap down through the yard just to get to the train shed. And I just feel, as I'm getting up more and more towards the older ages, the older numbers of the age, and I know I'm going to get bashed because everybody's in here is older than me, but that's okay too. But I don't like the shoveling and all that. And then you got to start the heat, and then you got to walk back down, after you figure, 1 or 2 hours of heat finally gets in there to take the chill off. And then you work down there and you open the shed door up, and, the snow is piled up that much more, and it's like, well, it don't even look like you did anything. And time you get started doing something, it don't look like you did it anyway. So don't get old. Well, let's just say I'm almost close to being half the way to 100. So I mean, 50 to me would be old enough. It's just I don't want to have to be shoveling snow at 50 the way, in my, because I've had kidney stone problems and I've got arthritis in my hands during the winter. It really hurts during the winter. I've got arthritis all the time, but it really hurts during the cold months. So, but I'm not saying I'm old now, but 50, it's the beginning of where they say stuff starts shutting or, breaking down, you might say. Well, I have a snow blower too. I also have a tractor with a plow, but the tractor ain't running right now. I'd rather use a plow, in my personal opinion, but because I'm sitting down, for me to walk and all that with because of the kidney stone problems that I had, it's hard for me to stand on my right side for a long period of time. I'm not saying that I can't do it, because I do it, but you start feeling it up through your back and your spine and your side and everything, and it just, I don't know, it's gotten better. Let's just hope the stones don't come back anytime soon, because I've already had them blasted twice in the last 5 years. So, yeah, that's okay too, Grandpa. But you used to live in West Virginia too. So you know all about it. Vinny knows all about it because he used to live somewhere where it snowed. I think he lived in New York where it snowed all the time. But then he moved to Arizona. I remember him talking about that. So who else we have in here? Just Joe, Heath, Almar, welcome. Joe, JD. We had Thomas in here earlier from Thomas Moore's Trains. Oh, Chasco was here. I didn't catch Chasco. I must have been talking about my cabooses at the time. I wasn't reading the chat. I'm actually looking down at my YouTube chat on my phone because I've got StreamYards up on my computer screen. So that's the reason I haven't been looking at this camera. That's the reason I'm looking down and not directly ahead. I can fix that. I'm going to adjust this one so you can see my ugly mug on this camera. And then I can look straight ahead and look down too. So anyway, I mean, they're nice cabooses. I can say that, but I do need to find the smokestacks, and when I do find the ladders, I may get a few extra ladders because I think they are, you can use them on the other cabooses, the regular cabooses with the the little rooftop, the Cubdola, I think is what they call them. If I say that right, I don't know. Oh, there's Chasco. Let me see if I can go back down here. Dinner is called. Okay, Grandpa, thanks for dropping in, buddy. Appreciate it. And Chasco says that's why he moved to Florida. But I appreciate your help, Joe. I'm sorry I had to bother you so many times with emails. I know that gets kind of frustrating after a while when somebody keeps sending you stuff, but how often do you actually hear from me, Joe? Not very much. Well, I'm glad I had somebody I could ask because I knew you was into the Chessie B&O C&O thing, and of course I'm more into the Western Maryland B&O. Well, I'm into all of them too because I mean, I've seen them in this area back when I was a little kid, when my grandfather and his two brothers also worked on the railroad. My two uncles, um, great uncles, I guess, because they'd be my mom's uncles. They'd be my great uncles. They're both going too, but one worked for the B&O, and I think the other one worked for. I don't know if both of them worked for Baltimore and Ohio or not. One might have been. I know my grandfather worked Western Maryland. One one of them worked B&O, and I can't think if it was the B&O that the other one worked on or not. It might have been one of them might have worked for the Penn Central or Pennsylvania or one of them, because our north south yard up here, which used to be called Shomo Yard because of Conrail being in business, and before Conrail, it was that yard here in north south yard in Hagerstown was owned by the Pennsylvania Railroad. Okay, so they owned it because Hagerstown, Maryland, not to be confused with the sister um, city of Indiana, because there is a Hagerstown, Indiana, also. But we got a sign up in city of Hagerstown when you drive by. It says Hagerstown, Maryland's sister city, Hagerstown, Indiana. But there is a such place. But we're Hagerstown, Maryland. But anyway, they are called the Hub City State or city, Hub City. And what that is, used to have 4 or 5 different railroads come in here to actual Hagerstown back way back. So you had the Western Maryland, maybe a small part of the C&O at the time, even though the C&O was more up west, I believe, on the map. At least that's how I looked it up. They might have just had C&O stuff come here or something. But anyway, they had the Western Maryland B&O, because the B&O came up from Baltimore and interchanged up here in our east-west yard, which was Baltimore to Cumberland, or Cumberland to Hagerstown to Baltimore. And then the north-south yard, which was the Shomo yard in the Conrail era, and before that, it was called the Shomo yard, which was basically Shippensburg and Martinsburg, I believe. That's what Martinsburg, West Virginia to Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, I believe, is what the Shomo meant, and that was the Conrail version of it. Before that, it was owned, of course, by the Pennsylvania Railroad, which meant Reading and parts of Penn Central. If they ran something down here, it probably wasn't their actual motive power, but it was, some of their rolling stock. But it was Reading that interchanged, N&W interchanged here, Western Maryland interchanged, B&O interchanged, and of course, Chessie's system and all them ran through here after they started merging the Western Maryland B&O and C&O all into starting to combined. And now that Shomo yard that was once Pennsylvania to Conrail to, or was also N&W that also came up in here. It is now the Varvo yard, I believe, is what it's called now. They renamed it when Norfolk Southern took it over. So we also have two, once in a while we'll have Maryland Midland cars come in, and Maryland Midland, Joe might even know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure if Ray does, but Joe would, maybe. He probably heard of them, but they actually come from Baltimore, but it's let me think of the name because that's hard to I'm not even sure if I can pronounce it, but it starts with an E, I believe. Is it an E down that way? It's out just, I think, outside of Baltimore on the map. And I can't think of. But anyway, Maryland Midland goes from that location up to Highfield, which is up above towards Pennsylvania, but it's on the Maryland side of the line, up on the mountain, or the Pennsylvania mountain, or whatever you want to call it. So then there's also a small railroad called the Winchester and Western. They come from a place called Gore, which is outside of Winchester, Virginia. And no, it's further than that, Joe. They come up through Emmitsburg, though. I'm pretty sure it starts with an E. I might have to find my map that I printed out on that and see what it actually is. But anyway, while I'm looking for the map, I'll try to continue talking. But Winchester and Western goes up to Hagerstown, and they have like a dead end type thing on, according to the map, according to Google Maps. It's kind of dead ended here in Hagerstown, but there's also a New Jersey line that runs Winchester and Western, which Winchester and Western ain't Winchester and Western now. It's the orange locomotive with the letters with a logo, and I can't even think of what that is. If I saw it, I would be able to tell you, but right off the top of my head, I ain't even going to start remembering that. But see if I can find that map. However, I did find something interesting on Google Maps. I believe that, no, this is AmericanRails.com. But there was an actual original Norfolk Southern at one time during the Norfolk and Western era, but it only ran in the Virginia area. So it would ran from Norfolk, Virginia to Charlotte, Virginia. So that's kind of interesting that I found that. And Winchester and Western ain't too far off of running basically the same route. So Norfolk Southern was around, it just wasn't a number one railroad yet, according to that map. And, well, I'm looking through here. I think I'm running out of my maps. Yeah, I'm not going to find it right away. So if I find it, maybe I can, yeah, I'm not going to find it because there's just too much other stuff laying here, I think. I thought sure I could find it. Like this is the AmericanRail.com version of the Norfolk Western original trackage. Yeah, it probably was, Joe. Maryland Midland started in, geez, I don't even know that off the top of my, but I made up a car just playing around one day. I actually looked the years that they actually came into operation and put the year as the road number on hoppers. So like Mullen Paul, that was started in like 1846 or something back in them days. And because that was Maryland and Pennsylvania, obviously. Winchester and Western was WW, so I put the year of that when the railroad started. And the Maryland Midland, I made one of those up and put the year when it was started as the road number. So all three of them is out there in the shed. Okay, Winchester and Western actually runs from Gore or Wardensville. It's outside of Gore and Winchester, but Wardensville is also where they used to. They probably still run there. It's just Gore is their main office, their main yard. But then they go to Winchester, Martinsburg, up here to Hagerstown, and then by Conrail trackage rights up in New Jersey. It was Bridgeton, Millsville, and Vineland. But it was all under Conrail's trackage rights, as it says right there. So on the map. So that's pretty interesting to know also. So, and if I'm finding all that, I should be able to find what I'm actually. Now here's the Western Maryland version. Now, Emery Grove. There you go, Joe. I recognize it on here. Emery Grove. It's right west up above Baltimore. Yes. Maryland Midland came up here a lot because of they have trackage up in like Chambersburg, or not Chambersburg, but up to Highfield, right before Pennsylvania. It's up in the mountain. Matter of fact, I believe I just found. Okay, let me see if I can. Here it is. Here's the one I'm after. There's the Maryland Midland map. They went from Emery Grove up to Highfield, which is up above Fairmont, Maryland, or Burmont, Maryland. However you say that. Fairmont, Thur Mont. I for some reason I keep saying Fairmont. It's Fairmont or Vermont, something like that. You'll get the idea. But there's the map. They run up. They had a trackage from Taneytown and to Woodsboro, and then the main line was Emery Grove to Highfield. So that was part of the Western Maryland, like Joe said. It is all B&O. Up in Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania, where they connected with the Fort Ritchie line or went through Fort Ritchie, there is a bridge that says B&O or B&O or something like that. So B&O also went up through Pennsylvania that direction, but Maryland Midland probably uses that track also if they need to. I believe it's the old I can't think of what the branch is. But some of this, I mean, it's just amazing because you got, okay, like Western Maryland, York, the Baltimore connection was in 1893. The Northern Central Railway, which ran from York to Baltimore, was a connection in 1838. And the Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad, Mullen Paul, was York to Baltimore in 1884. So there's that map. The black lines being your trackage. So they, went up to York and Baltimore and then connected with the Western Maryland. So that was, and now the Northern Central Railway, I'm not really sure how much I really actually ever heard about that. I've heard about it and I've seen people, do custom rolling stock of it. Same way of custom rolling stock for the Port of Baltimore. I've seen Port of Baltimore hoppers on eBay before, and at that particular time, of course, when you want something, you don't have no money. That's all how it always is. And I didn't have no money at the time, and this was years ago when I seen them, but I remember seeing them, and I thought they was the neatest thing because I thought, well, they're coming from the port somewhere down it, and I figure, they probably was maybe power plant or something, and somebody just put or made them up to Port of Baltimore for their layout. I mean, just like I've got Potomac Edison hopper cars. They're an electric company or the main supplier up here around this area. Well, their supplier everywhere. Like Frederick and Cumberland and places up here, I guess more in the west and somewhat in the east, but not everybody has the same Potomac Edison or Allegheny Power, whatever you want to call it. I think they went back to the name Potomac Edison, but now they got Allegheny Power on the trucks and Potomac Edison on the trucks, and you don't know who's who anymore. So I had an uncle that shipped milk on the, okay. Cool. Yeah, I've got a little switcher made up as the Baltimore and Annapolis. I don't know if that switcher is in here. I'm pretty sure it's in here. I probably showed it on my mail call before. Should be in this box. Uh-huh. Baltimore, Annapolis, number 50. Well, Joe, how you know that this ain't the one, buddy? I'm thinking I got this off of eBay, but you never know. Somebody could have bought it, put it on eBay, and I could have been the lucky person to get it. I mean, it runs. It's just I never actually ran it on the layout yet, but it's a Bachmann Spectrum or Spectrum, which is, the better line of Bachmann. Oh, you painted? Okay. Yeah, this one might been. This one has a figure in it, so you can see his little arm sticking out there and the head in there. Pretty neat. I found that and I thought, well, I kind of remember hearing about that. You pick up stuff when you're a kid and you have family members that work the railroad. If they're talking about the railroad, well, obviously, as a kid, you pick that up. Here's a little, this is like a Tyco or AHM or something like that, but that's one of them older switchers. This is for the Baltimore and Ohio. So, and of course, then you got this guy, which is how I got it, the paint chipping and all that, but I figure it's automatic weathering. So I just want something to use in my yard so I don't have to use my big engines. And of course, then you got your good old billboard car that obviously came. And something that I probably will not run, and this is one of them too, which I won't take out, but the old rubber band drives. I've got the rubber bands to replace, but time I put them on there, they're just probably going to melt and everything. So I figure, I could always put them in a yard on display, on a turntable, or something like that. Here's this other one, number 57. It's an old Afrin. Matter of fact, well, since I'm already in the box, there's the original box. What's left of it. The old yellow and red and white box. of Afrin. That's taking it back to when I was a kid. Well, when I was phasing, I guess, into the kid years, it was phasing over as I was growing up, you might say. But, but that's just some of the older stuff. That don't even nip it in the. That don't even give it a needle prick of some of the older stuff I've got. I mean, you think Ray is bad? I've got tons and tons of trains. Ray's trying to run everything. There's no way that I would come up with a drawer system big enough to try to run every single piece that actually would run. Some of my older stuff, of course, I'm like Ray. I will not run stuff with open gears anymore. I did enough of that when I was a kid. It's just time to try to save it and display it before it gets any more broke up, you might say. So we still got 3 people in here. Yeah, Grandpa left for supper. Okay, guys, well, I'm going to shut this live stream down. I'm also going to turn the heat down here because I jacked it up because it was cold. Now I'm sitting here and it's getting hot. So that must mean that the heaters are working. Yeah, then somebody like me ends up with this guy, which to me is nothing, probably going to be nothing but a display piece. I actually got an undecorated shell for one of these that I may decorate into. I thought about like Western Maryland or one of those, even though it don't exist. Who cares? My railroad. I mean, a lot of our railroads don't exist. We put it in our own paint scheme, our own railroad, our own colors. So, I mean, because I thought about getting a big boy, and the big boy don't have to run. It could be just, there could be enough parts on it to make it look like a locomotive, that and the tender, long as it has wheels under it, or I guess it really wouldn't have to have every single wheel, but I thought of something like that, just setting it at a car shop in a yard scene and redoing the Union Pacific into something like Western Maryland or something like that, even though it never existed. I mean, think about it. It never existed, but it could be a fantasy paint scheme nowadays because Western Maryland no longer exists. Technically. I mean, it will always, those railroads will always exist as long as there's CSX to me, because it was Chessie System and C&O and B&O and Western Maryland all together into one. Same way of Norfolk Southern, Norfolk Western, and Central, all of those, that combined it themselves into one railroad. There'll always be railroads to me. There'll always be some part of those railroads in that one main railroad. So they might not have cars, rolling stock of all of it, or any engines of them, besides museums, but to me, they'll always exist as long as those names stay as CSX or Norfolk Southern. So, but till then, guys, I'm going to sign off here because I got to go grab a quick bite to eat. I got to get back up early in the morning and run my daughter back to work in this mess outside. Some of the roads ain't well treated as some of the others, but we made it back and forth, or we made it home tonight. So tomorrow, hopefully, won't be totally different, but I don't know. It'll be just as slippery or more slippery. So, till then, guys, thank you, Joe and Chasco and Thomas and JD and whoever else now. Oh, Heath and Al for all stopping in for a few minutes. And we'll catch you on the next video or the next live stream.